or something like that. He said, right? High single digit billions is
Chat, 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 chat.
massive
What is up,
market.
team? How we
It's not
doing? How we
small,
doing?
and Nvidia
We
is
are
almost
live for
getting
some
all of it,
earnings.
right? At least
I do
the
have
GPU
work going
side of
on in the
it.
house
You
around
know
me, so
the
you guys might be
the
hearing a
you
lot of
know their
different
product
noises. But we're
suites
live on the
is getting all
spaces.
that
We are
market. They're
actually
not going to
talking
diversify.
through
I mean, these are
this
not the
headline
players that
right
have the sophistication to
here.
put together their own product suite, right? So they're going to go with the easy solution that can, that they can start bringing in
What's up,
people
Nick?
and
But yeah, we're
and
talking
do
about
whatever
this
the heck they
headline
want
right
to do with
here.
it. I don't know exactly
Here we
what they're
go.
doing with it, but
And
yeah,
that is causing a small
if
move
there
lower in a
is
name like Nvidia.
restriction, it is going to hit Nvidia more than others, but
Big wick down
it is
there.
still small as a market for Nvidia, growing really fast, but right now it's
Talking about
not.
Dell.
Well, it's a single digit
Who's up
billions,
here as well? But
so it
welcome,
could
welcome
be,
to everyone
it
joining the
could be 5
stream.
billion for Nvidia. I don't
Let
know.
me know how the background
We'll
noise
have to see.
is.
It's not
I hope it's not too
trivial.
bad.
It is something, and well, not all of it is Middle East, right? You have other countries also, investing. Japan is, South Korea is. I think some European countries are too. So many of
But
that
yeah, we're talking
that
through right
that
now this headline for Nvidia.
might encompass some of the billions there. But the Gulf states have been very vocal about how much money they're throwing into this. So who knows? It's early right now. I think reacting to a headline like this is a bit too far. Just wait for some policy change. I mean, remember, even sales to China, it's not like gone down to zero yet, right? So it's one thing to go off a headline and say everything related to that is going from whatever it is today to zero right away. That doesn't happen. So this is going to be gradual when that policy gets implemented, when that policy gets affirmed, and then when they start implementation. So this time, I don't think it's going to change next quarter, but if the talk gets tougher and tougher, they might have to put it in their commentary and answer
I
some
lowered them a
questions on
little
it.
bit.
So that's the risk. Otherwise, I don't see an immediate risk. Maybe two, three
I'm
quarters
just getting the
down.
link out everywhere.
Yeah, Mono, they're probably going to target countries that might be trying to resell these over to China too, right? I mean, that could be a scenario that could take place with so like countries like Turkey, right? Which we have like a
This should be
relationship
decent.
with them. They're a NATO member, but we're not on like friendliest of terms, and they're kind of open or neutral. If you look at the geopolitical region, geopolitical landscape within the region, so that could be
Got millions
also
hitting for
an
single goals
area
today
where they
too.
target. So it might not be
What's
just
up,
like a
Jim?
blanket every single country that's within the Middle East. It probably will be targeted sales to those that they may have already evidence that they're probably like reselling
Ooh, three
these
likes on the stream
to
already.
China
We're
or
killing
other
it. Ooh,
partners
what's
that
up,
the
brother?
U.S. doesn't
Welcome, Paul.
sell to.
Some Costco
So
buy
we probably
earnings
just need to get
incoming.
I
I'm
mean,
excited.
I don't think
Costco, Dell, and
that
Google.
leak can ever be plugged completely. It's a question of whether you make it bad enough that the big players don't want to mess with it, right? So it's not going to be stopped ever.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a black market for everything, right? There's a black market for everything, but as you talked about, probably just in the back of their
A lot of
minds,
earnings incoming
these
today.
bigger players, kind of just keeping them on notice. And it's not the first time that we've done stuff like
Costco numbers
Yeah,
should be out in a
outside
couple
of
minutes,
just
2 p.m. Eastern. You guys can see
but
this
we
over here,
also get
right?
a lot of hyperbole, right? I mean, look, I'm very familiar with
See this
Singapore
news?
market. I've worked there for a few years. So every time there's a Nvidia report out and they show sales to regions, people immediately assume everything that went to Singapore got sent to China. That's just stupid take. One, every single hyperscaler
What's up,
has
brother?
a mega presence in Singapore. Massive. I mean, really massive presence in Singapore because it is a US friendly country that follows the rule of law. They have protection for IP, all kinds of stuff. And they have massive data centers and increasing size in Singapore. Two, there are a lot of contract manufacturers that have large facilities in Singapore, starting with somebody like a Flextronics. So these guys could be manufacturing for a lot of players, right? So allocating,
Good news.
GPUs to Singapore doesn't mean anything, as
All right,
it
there you
would
go. I lowered them
the
a little
case
bit
of
more.
many other
Let's maybe lower that
countries,
too.
right? This
Your
is
volume is really low
the
compared to your
policy,
speakers.
the
All right. Is
politics
this
of
better?
it.
Are we good now, chat? Is this a little
It's
bit
its
better?
own thing, and it's going to
Now there's
take
an
time to
echo.
sort out. There will be leakages, but I don't think wholesale any country is going to just buy
Oh.
just to ship it to China. I don't think anybody's going to take that risk because their US is far larger than whatever they can gain currying
Yeah, I
favor
think I
for
know what
short
happened
term
there.
on H100s
Chat,
to China.
is it fixed
That
now?
will
I
happen
think it's fixed now.
irrespective, and it'll
I think
happen
it's fixed now.
slowly, and it'll happen in smaller quantities, but not through massive official channels.
Yeah, this one will be an interesting one to track. I have the a little bit more information from the Bloomberg article. U.S. officials have slowed the issuing of licenses to chip makers such as Nvidia and AMD for large-scale AI accelerator shipments to the Middle East. While officials conduct a national security review of AI development in the region, it's unclear how long the review will take, nor is there a concrete definition of what constitutes a large shipment. So
And the concerns are that they're being diverted to China, obviously, as we discussed.
yeah,
That's definitely happening in Singapore.
Yeah, I mean, Monitive kind of responded to that just earlier here too, but I'm curious, if you what anecdotal, I guess, stuff you've seen about that as well.
So, chat, I had it playing through the computer as well, and I didn't realize it. Like, I had it on a separate browser because I joined the space. Makes so much more sense now.
Reach out to me and ask me about
So, I
that.
think we're good.
All the information on
Cool.
hand. In short,
Thanks for letting me
it's really
know
tough
and
to close those
hounding me on that,
loopholes
so I made sure to fix it.
because they're going to find ways to get into it the same way that China finds ways to
Let's
go
close a
through
couple
Malaysia,
tabs.
Cambodia, and Thailand to get their solar panels and equipment through the U.S. So I think it's just going to be continuing. In short, it's just going to be a game of whack-a-mole. And Singapore is weird because, well, actually Singapore is great, but what I mean by weird is that they're not really aligned with the U.S. or China, so they're going to definitely get pressured from the U.S. more, but they have to be
Really
careful
being
not
brought
to
up a
push
little bit on my
against the
candle.
U.S. too hard because they don't want to alienate them. So there's a lot at play. In short, I don't know the answer, but it's definitely something that if I was a Singaporean policymaker, I would.
This probably now has to be a little louder.
Brett, I have to disagree. I worked in Singapore.
It was Dimitri.
Yeah. Sorry, whoever said that, I have to completely disagree. I worked in Singapore. I have dealt with AWS there. I've dealt with Google there for the cloud solutions. And
all right, good. I'm glad we got some better quality going now.
They have
Now, like, I think this is a good level here.
Cloud worldwide. And their chosen presence in Asia is Singapore, and historically, that's always been the case. And they spend billions of dollars
Let's run through the page from the news
on their cloud
in case anyone's missed
infrastructure,
any stuff.
and they do need all of what they have in other places geographically. They have to balance it
Some
out
Bostic
in
comments.
their Singapore data centers also. So it is not. There is nothing consciously evil about.
If anyone didn't see this, Jensen Huang now worth $100 billion.
Being large.
First time ever.
It is just
Congrats
what
to him.
It is always the case that shipments to Singapore is large for a country that's small.
Why does this stuff take so long to load? I need a new computer so badly.
Massive presence there, and they have to. There is no choice because it's a better place to put your data center. It's a safer place. It follows the law more thoroughly than does any other country around them. So it is one of the best places for US companies, the safest places for US companies.
The 6 biggest US companies now are worth 30% of the S&P 500. Pretty big number.
A small percentage of those might
pretty
end
big
up in
concentration.
China, but there is no wholesale diversion. Certainly
64.
not from Singapore.
I want to make sure we're getting everyone involved here and throw it over to Mr. Paper Gains. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that conversation that's being had there, but some NVIDIA AMD news. We have a bunch of earnings coming up after the close, including Costco, Dell, which I know you've been watching, and a bunch of others. and just some news going on today. What's been catching your eye? What are you watching, sir? Appreciate you joining us as always.
Sorry, I wasn't really in on the last one. We run an earnings course or earnings system, so just kind of running my analysis right now on some of the earnings trades. So just finishing up on that right now, but you can come back to me, Evan. That's all I'm doing at the moment right now.
I'm definitely excited to ask about those. We're going to shift into the direct earnings talk in about 10-15 minutes, so you have that time anyway. So we'll definitely make sure I'm circling back to you at the start of that.
Okay. Yeah, I can just tell you right now, all I'm doing, I will say, if you're looking at earnings, Costco is overpriced, Ulta is significantly overpriced, MongoDB is underpriced, Marvell and NetApp are also underpriced. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
Marvell and NetApp. Interesting.
What about Zscaler? Do you have something for Zscaler?
Slightly overpriced.
Damn it.
Sorry, did I hear that Ulta is overpriced?
Yes, significantly overpriced.
Well,
Talking about the options.
Yeah, options.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I've been selling premium, so I was like, wait,
Yeah,
I misinterpreted that one.
I'm very much selling premiums right now.
Logical is about to go at your neck. Like, let me tell you what the company.
No, so like the Ulta trade, the spread, it's very spready, I will say, on Ulta right now, but there's a calendar. So like it's
Chat, how is these
it's kind of
spaces
touch
now?
and go
Is this a
on
good
Ulta
level,
right
volume
now,
level?
but
Louder,
the spreads
quieter?
are very wide. I would just say but the average move on Ulta is about $20, $21, give or take, over the last year and a half. The implied move currently is
Costco's number should be out at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, guys.
overnight. So that's
Good, okay.
significantly that's significantly more than average.
yeah. I
Costco
sold
415,
the
Dell
375s,
405.
bought 360s puts, so I have some bullish put spreads on. Honestly,
405,
Yeah,
I
405.
might add a couple.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm selling at the
Good,
monies
thanks,
and
guys.
I'm buying at the monies further dated, so calendar spreads.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going like 2 weeks out. I figure this earnings, like,
Do
I
we
don't know
Costco
how
photos?
much we should sell off, but to be honest,
Maybe we'll do
these,
this.
the put spreads are funny because, we're sitting at 386. I sold at 375s, and the put spreads are only up like not even 10%. I almost feel like I should just be adding another couple or something right now.
Yeah, so in terms of trading IV around earnings, we trade time skew or disparity and volatility, right? So if you look at just the shortest dated option volatility, you're looking at 212% IV for this series. 2 weeks out, you have a 64% IV on that series. So that's the change. So that extra 150% volatility, that's the profit that we're looking at collecting, and we hedge with the longer dated options, if that makes sense. So can't lose more than we put out. But yeah, that's the edge, is 150% edge in terms of IV. So that's
So you're selling the one that expires like tomorrow, but buying the one that expires in a couple weeks. Is that what I'm understanding?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Anyways, carry on, Evan. My bad.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we'll definitely circle back on some of the more specific ones. I'd love to hear the implied moves, historic moves, all that stuff. Yeah, George, I see we got your hand up. Then I want to make sure we get Dimitri and Logical into it as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on.
Which are supposed to outperm?
The new potential
Well, all
regulations
Crage,
in
we'll
the
see if
Middle
we
East
find
are
one that
interesting.
paper
It
and
was
everyone
it
agrees
was a
on.
good exchange on that. I mean, my personal opinion on it is just that, like, it is just way too hard, and I would be interested in their methodology. I think it's way too hard to determine, like, what is, like, a large order, what's legit. Like, and one example that just comes to mind is that, Kuwait's making major AI investments, or, let's just say they say they are, or we don't really know how much of that could be just, like, a large cover for China, potentially. And I'm just singling them out mostly because I had a roommate in college who was a Kuwaiti prince, and he always said whenever he would bring up technological
Kuwaiti
improvements,
Prince.
that basically the answer he got was, we came from the
I don't know
dust
about
and we
Costco.
will go
We're all
back to the
watching
dust
Costco, so
someday.
it's like the front and center one. You
So
don't necessarily
on
want
that
to bet
note,
on
I
that
just
one.
think
You
that,
want
like,
to
it's
bet
just
on a
way
different one.
too
But
hard
I think we might be getting some. I think the price of the membership might go up.
Based
If I'm
on the
being real.
order. And they already have things in place. Like I liked seeing the increase.
I'll look at that in a second.
Because to
Jim.
me, sometimes America is playing this thing with China a little bit too much like they're the loser already. And, whether or not that's the reality, to me, I'd much rather say like, hey, especially with all our debt, I'd rather take the tariffs and don't sell directly to China. I understand. But, why hurt our stock market? Why hurt some of our bigger winners like Nvidia? When we don't have to. To me, this is going a little too far, and I'd rather see it be solved in tariffs than, basically limiting anyone who could potentially sell to China, which is honestly most countries.
Monativ, you have any return thoughts on that? I know it's an area that you watch.
No, I mean he's right. There is no way to block this, right? I'll go back. Even during the Cold War, both Microsoft and at that time Novell, which was the only server operating system, were completely blocked from doing business with the former Soviet Union. There were thousands of shell companies formed in Europe to buy and move the software over, and they had whole institutes set up to hack in and enable the OS to work without license keys and stuff. This is never going to stop. They are going to find a way to get what they need to get, and like George said, I do agree.
All right, let me look. What you're saying?
Might as well just make them pay for it and take it.
It's not as clear.
Than,
interesting.
Eventually forcing them to throw
Does that sound better?
And build their own.
I did mess with some things with the mic, but I didn't think it did anything. I guess maybe it did.
But there's no point. This is very short-term focused, and it does not gain anything. It does not help the industry. It does not help keep the technology from them either.
It's funny. This is kind of a little bit different than the
I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing.
But, so ADM, not AMD, ADM. There was a report that it's out today, and I don't know if it's true or not, but stock did get hit, and it looks like it recovered.
LPA.
But, there's a report out that they actually had a shell type of company too, and an intermediary between the Russians.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
They were actually utilizing this company to be able to take the stolen Ukrainian grain and still be able to ship those grains off or still process those grains, even though they were stolen. And it's a whole
20 minutes to the close. 20 minutes to the close.
States and, what we have.
Here's the earnings we're watching out for. This column right here.
Different kind of sector,
make
but
it a little
still
bit better.
the
But
same
Costco,
concept
Dell,
you're
Marvell,
talking
Viva,
about. There's a lot
MongoDB,
of ways
Zscaler.
around,
Costco, Dell, Marvell, MongoDB, Viva, Zscaler. So I got these 7 that I'm going to keep on watch. We'll throw Cento on. It just gets confusing when I have too many.
For opportunities to be able to exploit certain loopholes to be able to turn a profit.
20 minutes to the close, about 30 minutes till
to
major
block the
earnings.
system completely. It's just impossible. It's just out of question. So you're gonna have leakages. It's just a matter of
For anyone wondering, this is X Pro, Twitter Pro, or whatever.
That is given.
This is TradingView. This is Earnings Hub.
Let's make them pay.
This is Benzinga Pro.
And get it, even if not directly. Let's force them to
Nice job, up 20%, not bad.
Make it cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I think this is the worst day for Salesforce since 2004. Pain.
And no country is going to, directly do this. Maybe Russia will, right? But we're not going to sell to Russia. But no country except a rogue state is going to,
Chat.
That kind of stuff never happens. And Kuwait has
Costco, Dell,
significant U.S. defense presence. They're not going to jeopardize that.
MDB.
Yeah, I generally agree with what you guys are saying, but I think underlying that there is the issue that you're talking about a government entity that has a
I'm
much
Team No on
blurrier
Costco.
line between
I'll ask Paper.
private
Give it 5
entities in
minutes
that
and let's see.
country than we do.
I did buy a tiny
And
bit
that's
more
the issue
Salesforce,
here.
but
That's why
just
they're
that was
not
last night. I
considering
got in
tariffs.
at
Tariffs are fine, and you're like, "I'll make them pay a premium." It's different when you have
was it 232?
the CCP
Yeah, 232 paying.
intentionally
We're at 217,
wanting to acquire
215.
compute.
Jesus.
That's a different story than
Whatever.
this
3-day
Chinese
rule.
startup wants some compute from Nvidia, so we should let them buy it at a premium. So that would be my only.
I may have
pushback,
actually
but,
bought
I
some
mean, I
options in
generally agree
Hood
with you guys
and
are saying.
Apple longer term ones.
I'll say this, like, tariff policy, in my opinion,
I'm
in the
leaning
long
towards it
term,
on
has never
Costco, but
been
I'm afraid to
effective
say yes.
policy,
I won't lie to you. I
right?
think
Because
that they're either
tariffs are
going
gonna
to
make them
announce a stock
charge a
split
premium.
or
That's
they're going to
cool.
raise the
They're gonna
price of
be
their
able to
membership. Let me get
retaliate
this in front of me.
towards us in some way, shape, or form in another market or another industry. We just have
This.
domino effect that's going to
2011,
take place. I
2017.
don't think the tariff
They're
would
due
be
to raise the price of
effective.
their
It's like,
membership right now.
give them access or don't give them access. That's the
And I might already have a tweet ready for
only
it.
two ways. And then eventually, what China will do is just reverse engineer the technology anyway, right? Like we know where this is going to head, and so you put tariffs on them now. You get the technology; they're able to perfect the technology. They undercut, sell at a cheaper price. I mean, we've seen it for pretty much all electronics for the last 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And I mean, you know, the intention here is clearly not just about protecting IP, which I agree with Kevin. You know, that's their intention for almost every successful American product is just to copy it. I mean, go look at the Huawei stores. You'll laugh when you see them. I mean, they copy everything. They copy the look of the products, the feel of the products. They try to copy the software, and so they will attempt to do that in this industry too. And it's not like us preventing them from getting shipments is going to prevent them from reverse engineering it. It's not. But this is a race currently. And I personally, and obviously
my largest holding, that's reporting today.
With the decision
I don't really own many of these names. I own a tiny bit of Costco, a tiny bit of Dell. My largest holding is Apple, though.
Being used as proxies, that's where I agree that this conversation becomes complicated and perhaps even moot, because at a certain point the needle will just move around. If you ban shipments, from the Middle East, or even if you extend
that's why I stay in the U.S. markets.
Cutting edge chips.
Let's do this.
Eventually there'll be some other haven by which these products are proxy transported to China. So
sorry for the way
we
this
just have
might
to
look,
kind
chat.
of wash our hands at the idea of trying to prevent that and just directly limit it at the source and hope that that's as effective as it can be. But to me, this is a race, and it's not just a race between corporate entities. I think it's a race between governments, frankly, because if we solve AGI before the Chinese do, the idea that there's going to be an enormous amount of benefits that are applied not just to private industry, but military benefits, national security benefits.
I know U.S. markets more because of where I'm from.
Technological
but hey,
benefits,
U.S. markets are a good.
Why is this here? I think that's worth it. But again, we don't have to get too political about it.
All right, we're right here at the 3:45, so I do want to shift into some earnings talk in a second, but I want to get Logical and Dimitri into the conversation. I'll circle back with you guys for more of the in-depth thoughts on what we're talking about close to like 4:15, 4:30. But Logical, you watching anything for any of these earnings? How you feeling?
Yeah. Sorry. Also, I gotta leave at 4:30, but I was gonna say, yeah, I'm watching Ulta. I have a long position.
All right,
shares.
chat.
I think the
15 minutes till we close.
It's actually at its cheapest valuation, and I believe historically, they have a $2 billion buyback authorization as of the last earnings. In 2023, they bought back $1 billion worth of shares. If they did that this year, which I think they will, considering their top line is still growing, they still have operating leverage.
My portfolio is looking pretty ugly today, though, in general.
$1 billion worth of shares, they will retire another over 5% of their shares, given that the market cap is sitting at $18 billion. So stock is very cheap. The company is still growing. They've been they are a compounder, and they've always they have a proven track record. So they already guided to 4 to 5% growth. We know that Target had a very bad report, but they said that beauty was a very strong spot in their retail business. And then you have Elf Beauty still doing very well. So you have kind of some read-throughs. They have the biggest loyalty program in America, and a ton of recurring purchases from those loyalty customers. So yeah, I mean, think about it like this, right? This is a stock that's trading at 14 times earnings. That is incredibly cheap for the quality. It is, guiding for 5% top line growth. You can assume with some operating leverage, that's 10% on the bottom line. If they retire 5% of shares, EPS is going to compound 50%.
Yeah, Nvidia moving lower off of this
and that's
headline.
assuming that you don't get any sort of multiple expansion. So to me, it's
Reining
an
in
extremely
chip
cheap
sales
stock.
to Middle
It
East
has
by
always done
Nvidia
well.
and
If you look at the
AMD.
technicals, the monthly chart, it looks like it's
Ugly
back down
candle,
to that
continuing lower,
50
honestly, pretty
month moving
bad.
average, which has respected
We'll
all
see.
the way up. So yeah, I mean, look, this is a stock that continues to see ups and downs along the way, but overall the stock is up and to the right. I felt like it has been a good buying opportunity in these moments. And I think, right, like going into this 14 times earnings is not very demanding. And I imagine that, this company having that big buyback authorization, they are going to be a constant bid for this stock. And if this stock went lower, and if you're sitting in shares, I wouldn't even be worried. I'd be buying more, just generally given that they're going to be placing the bid for this stock, and you could just ride with management on this one.
Is this for Alta?
Yes, sir.
Hey, 2 questions for you, and I appreciate that breakdown. One, I think for this stock, it seems like for me, it's more of like a leadership risk. And when I say that, their leadership team has been horrible at providing a vision and providing like positive statements over the last couple of quarters. And I feel like that's kind of another reason why we saw a dramatic sell-off in the stock. I'm not sure if that's going to turn around.
Yeah, I'm still holding my
get your
Nvidia.
thoughts
We'll see.
on that. And then the other
I want to
side
shift
of
this
for Alta
conversation.
too is their expansion strategy.
I'm going to take and go over to paper.
They were just printing money hand over fist, but it seems like they're kind of slowing that down, especially like in this particular environment. Does that concern you that the majority of the growth was new outlets being put online, basically, or being opened up and pretty much turning around profits fairly quickly? And with them slowing that type of strategy down, does that a concern for you? So leadership, and then the deceleration of opening new stores.
I think that 14 times earnings is not demanding, and given the track record of the business, and they've
Costco
guided just
415,
3
Dell
months
405,
ago that they will
Marvell
still see 4 to
405,
5% growth this year on
Viva
the top line.
405,
I mean, it
Mongo
just leaves me at
Dongo
ease, and
405,
so I'm not
Zscaler
too concerned
405.
because the
405 is going to
valuation
be a
is so
busy couple minutes
favorable.
for
And
me.
again, we've seen this stock come down over 30%, so that would reflect a ton of the slowing of growth or the uncertainty of management. But what I am certain of is they bought back $1 billion worth of shares last year. If they continue to do so this year, that's already going to outpace, yield on, T-bills, for instance. So in terms of parking your cash, like Ulta to me sounds like probably a better bet given the risk reward than cash at this moment. That's just how I feel. So yeah, I think it's just cheap and it works.
Thanks.
Awesome. Paper gains. I want to throw it into your direction. I know you were talking about some of the earnings. We were talking about how they're priced. I believe that was implied move versus previous couple earnings, correct? Is what we were talking about earlier? I would love to hear more through some of these earnings and how the options are pricing.
Puking, 1.4% QQQ's down.
Nvidia definitely leading that. I know that's been going lower off of that story we were talking about. But yeah, Paper and then Shy, I'm going to come over to you, talk through some of these earnings. Paper, what's being priced in here in the options market?
Sorry, I got some gardeners behind me all of a sudden. They picked the greatest times to show up here too. I think Ulta is definitely. I agree with Kevin also, and I think it was Logical. I agree with Logical also. Oddly enough, so I'm doing a put calendar on Ulta right now. Having a little bit of hard time
He's
getting
betting on Ulta
because of the spreads. But I'm selling short-term puts and I'm buying long-term puts as a hedge against the short-term puts, and I'm doing it in an investment account. Just as an aside, if I do get put the stock, I'm actually going to keep the shares, and I'm going to own long-term puts as a hedge against the shares, and that's they're going to offset each other. So I'm not going to lose any way you slice it on that, quite frankly, and I'll just make profit on whatever the delta is between the implied move and the average actual move, assuming there is one. But that said,
I'm team no. I can't lie. I don't bet on earnings. I don't think this one's worth it.
And I do agree. Kevin's point is valid. Like the management did shoot themselves.
No, Crage. If you want to be able to work, you gotta do these more advanced option strategies.
To have some
at least for
commentary
earnings.
that was unnecessary about.
My opinion.
I mean, it wasn't necessary to say what they said. But anyways, there's that risk. There's also, so Gap's interesting. Retail's been having a good quarter. Gap does report to, I think it's either tonight or tomorrow morning. That one's in a decent spot. But it's
He's
software, right? So software's been
he's
in an
talking
investment
about
period. I think Mongo's up, Zscaler's up. Those are going to be
was
big
it
movers
MDV?
for
Oh,
sure.
fuck it.
Dell's had a nice pullback today, but it was heavily up in the pre. So I'm not so sure how much Dell's gonna move at the moment. And I think this sell-off into the close is honestly par for the course. Some into like trepidation, if you will, into tomorrow morning's PCE, right? Like market's on edge.
What's up, Broke It?
If that PCE is cool, then this is all for naught, and we just rip.
Good luck, Craig. Let me get ult on my
I
radar.
think this dump was more NVIDIA related than anything. But
was there news on NVIDIA or?
Yeah.
We were talking about 25 minutes ago.
Oh,
It's at the top. Yeah.
Got it. So I mean, we'll see, right? So Marvell's comes out also. That's another chip stock for sure. That's going to be a
Good
big
luck,
mover.
Craig.
And I honestly, I think so. Dell and NetApp, I think, are going to be important today. We saw Pure Storage last night. I'm in the camp of like, so MongoDB is a database company. It's all like, where does AI data get stored? That's going to be interesting.
All right, 7 minutes till market close. Come on.
In the cloud, it sits on maybe Dell EMC.
Shout out to the 4 of you that have
NetApp,
liked the stream so far.
Storage,
Appreciate you all.
Inside of MongoDB
3.9
databases, we'll
watch
see.
hours.
Zscaler, I think, has been having a hard time. That's interesting, but again, slightly overpriced. Average move $10.50. Implied move $18 right now. And Costco. I mean, Costco. I always sell premium on Costco. They give their information, I think monthly, so they don't typically move a whole lot. I mean, they do move.
Probably not the best strategy, Craig, but I hope it works out for you.
More than their implied moves typically. If that makes sense. So
what is Costco's implied move?
Implied move $35.75. Average move $26.26. Like imputed, like calculated in the last year and a half at least. So they do move, but typically the options market implies more of a move than they usually do.
What about for Ulta? I got people asking me about Ulta in here. What's the implied move and the historic moves for ULTA?
Implied move on Ulta is massive, right? So again, almost 50% more implied move versus the average. So again, average move 21.5.
Do not love that, Craig.
Average move $21.5. Implied almost $35. So $34.25. That's
crazy.
Freaking ginormous, right? So average move is 5.6%, and they're implying a 10% move.
Any of these earnings have average moves that are below what's implied?
Mongo. So MongoDB. So average move $41, implying a sub $38 move. So MongoDB and NetApp, I think if you're going to take a directional bet, as well as Marvell, are ones where you could take directional bets and possibly get paid. By the way, I don't do this analysis on anything under like $25 because volatility doesn't really calculate that well on stocks that are cheaper than that. So there are other ones like SentinelOne is up tonight as well. I don't do
15
that
minutes,
one,
20 minutes to Costco earnings, 4:15 p.m. Eastern.
Strategy that I do run here, so I don't have that calculation. But like there are a lot of other ones
there.
Or if they don't have enough option volume, they're like Duluth. Like what is their Jesus? There's a lot of others that are out there. Let me see. We want aftermarket or anyway. So like Mongo, Nordstrom is up. PagerDuty's out there. Viva, Elastic. Some of these don't have enough volume for me to really even consider, so I don't even run the numbers. And again, if they don't, so they have to have weekly options to qualify. They have to be over $25 to qualify. And so some of them don't even. They're just basic checks and balances.
Gotcha.
If they don't qualify, I don't waste the time doing the analysis to get through the 100 some odd companies that are reporting at any given time.
I'm excited to see how some of them move. I want to make sure we get over to Shy before these numbers come out. I know a lot of these names watching your area. and want to hear just kind of what's on your radar. But the majority of these numbers come out at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Dell, Marvell, Viva, MongoDB, Zscaler,
So
and then
Dell's wild, right? So Dell, I couldn't believe Dell. Now Dell has an average move of $20. The implied move is 23. So last quarter Dell moved 31.5%.
didn't let me get to shy. Pain.
I was like, that's insane. The quarter before that, 5.5%. Before that, 23. But if you take out those two, what we call outlier quarters of 31 and 21%, I mean, Dell's typically moving sub 5%, but after those last two, I mean, it could be crazy. So Dell's kind of like I don't know what Dell's gonna do, but it's had a massive run. I know some people are like heavy into 200s. I'm long the stock. I'm honestly torn. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Watching this guy, but like, whew.
We'll definitely. I'm definitely excited for that one. Shy though, I wanna bring you into it, Mr. Shy. I know these are names in your space. Anything you're watching specifically on these numbers we're about to get? Where will your eye be going first?
For sure, MongoDB, because I do think this one has the most to bleed. If the trend continues this earnings cycle, I think
Nick, give or take, yes, they are gambling. But hey, I mean,
I hope I'm
if you want to
wrong.
gamble, you can gamble.
I want to add more, but I think it's going to bleed. Other one, Samsara. It's not a software company, but it is growth tech. Ticker IoT. This one has been in a trap.
Here's what we are expecting for the numbers.
They've gapped up the past couple prints, and they've completely faded that move over the course of the couple months. This name belongs in the 20s based on valuation,
$26, 21.7.
definitely a strong name with
Dell,
a building moat.
29.
That's in a niche of just IoT solutions, essentially.
Marvell.
I won't get into company too much. We have a couple minutes only, but Zscaler is one that I downgraded today in my portfolio. I sold 25%. I think there's some real concern on their SASE and their specifically Edge as well. That we know some Fastly and Cloudflare of just like there's some near-term headwinds, and they missed out on their billings last time, and clearly saw the trend this earnings
Market's
cycle.
almost closed.
The duration of deals are kind of getting extended, which affects the billings, and algos hate slowing billing growth or billings misses, so this might get punished. But it has gone punished this year, so who knows? Wow, I cannot believe CrowdStrike went down 10% today. That's wild. Another one, Sentinel One. Sentinel One, Samsara. These are great examples of these are interesting growth tech companies, but they have some levers to pull on margin expansion, operating levers to pull. Since Sentinel One needs that free cash flow positive quarter, I think this is one that's just going to be acquired down the line. They really
Costco numbers out, not out. Big lick
has
though.
a massive opportunity for consolidation with a lot of names, and Sentinel One I do think is too small to kind of survive, and think is going to be an interesting acquisition. Another one, Elastic, ESTC, that's another growth tech company that specializes in search. If you guys don't know them, it's Elasticsearch, essentially just data. It's correlated with data, and it's a software company. They haven't done well this earnings cycle. This is a name that ran up last earnings cycle, completely faded the move, broke 100.
This Costco move isn't real.
They don't have the best
numbers aren't out yet.
Top line growth and margins as well. So this is a name that if they don't deliver,
we should expect those Costco numbers out at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 14 minutes.
That might bleed a ton. Zscaler has been bleeding a ton, so who knows what's built in the expectations. Sentinel One, if they have any kind of profitability surprise, this could be a runner. But end of the day, software is not the place to be in this earnings cycle, and I'll pass it back to you because it's closing bell.
We got a couple minutes till some of these numbers coming out. I'm seeing NetApp earnings, revenue slightly beating expectations. EPS looks like it's also quite far away from what Wall Street was expecting, so we'll see if that ends up getting out there. EPS actually $1.80 beating expectations of $1.79. NetApp beat on both top and bottom line. I haven't seen forward guidance yet, but NTAP moving lower. Interesting. Keep an eye on that one. But a lot of the numbers, as I was saying, should be out at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Marvell, Dell, MongoDB, Zscaler, etc. should all be out around then. NetApp reversed. We going higher now? There we go. I saw it say 52-week highs right there on my thing. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, now that's a big green candle up for NetApp. Up to like 126 now, I'm seeing. Interesting. Costco, I was seeing move a little bit as well, but that's a fake candle. Earnings should be out at 4:15 p.m. Eastern for Costco, and I'm excited. This could be the quarter that they announce a stock split could be coming out of this. There also are some rumors, or I'm kind of postulating that they might be increasing the price of their annual subscription. It was or has been $60 since 2017. They're kind of due for a price increase there. Forward guidance: NetApp sees EPS between $1.40 to $1.50 next quarter. Wall Street wanted $1.44. Revenue $1.45 billion to $1.6 billion. Wall Street wanted $1.52. So mostly in line with expectations on NetApp for their forward guidance there. Waiting a minute here for a lot of the numbers we have coming out. Hang with us, like I said, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. What'd you say?
NetApp's not on. Where's the meet? NetApp's not on the earnings hub.
No, I think it's just not on the popular. It's probably there.
Oh wow.
Just
He
search
has
it.
Umbrella, but not NetApp.
No, NetApp is here. NetApp is here. You just have to search
the
it.
1 billion buyback.
For NetApp, no, I didn't. Doing a 1 billion buyback. I also saw a dividend announced there.
New buyback 1 billion.
The market hasn't really been respecting share buybacks, except for the Apple one and I guess the Robinhood one.
All in context.
Yeah,
And Hood.
I was gonna say that Robinhood one. The first day.
Buyback is different.
Robinhood one was an interesting one. The fiscal year.
Is Ulta out?
Ulta, I haven't seen it yet, but it might be.
NetApp get back the whole move.
Wait for the morning. We'll see.
We're still waiting. Like I said, most of these numbers should be at 4:05 p.m. Eastern, and then they'll start kind of cycling in around there. I see Gerg down below if he wants to come up and read from the terminal for the numbers, but 1 minute we should be getting a lot of this stuff. Dell, I'm seeing Wall Street expecting $1.29, revenue 21.7 billion, about what they're expecting for Dell. Under a minute till these numbers come out, though. I'm wishing all of you guys good luck if any of these companies you have, any of your companies are reporting earnings.
We should look at Marvell when it comes to.
Yep, I'll keep it on my radar. Marvell, Dell, MongoDB, Zscaler. I'll make sure I'm looking at Ulta a second after too. Vistra plans to add. I still haven't seen the numbers out quite yet, so I mean they big move lower.
11% move lower.
Damn, Dell getting destroyed.
I don't know.
The first 5 was intraday, but yeah.
Oh, Zscaler.
Yeah, Ulta with a big move lower. All right, I'm seeing a lot of these numbers now. Zscaler. Zscaler revenue was 553 million. Wall Street wanted 536. Decent beat there. I could dig in further in a minute, but I'll find that. Marvell Technologies revenue of 1.16 billion. Wall Street wanted 1.16, so about in line with expectations there. EPS came in at 24 cents, in line with expectations. Marvell meeting both top and bottom line. Dell revenue of $22.2 billion, beating expectations of $21.7 billion. EPS. You guys see Dell EPS?
Who?
Dell, DELL. $1.32. Oh, is what I'm seeing. And non-GAAP, no, $1.27. Missing expectations, but I'm gonna wait a second on that one. Ulta Beauty GAAP EPS was $6.47, beating expectations of $6.22. Revenue of $2.7 billion, beating expectations of $2.73 billion, beating expectations of $2.72 billion. So you had to
Holy Ulta.
go in. Ulta, is that up or down?
At Ulta looked up 397 so far.
Dell, yeah, EPS I'm seeing $1.27. These had expectations of $1.26, so to beat their
MongoDB is down 20%.
So far.
so far, yeah.
Mongo and Zscaler go in opposite directions right now.
MongoDB. Let me see if I can find this report in front of me. Yeah, MDB. I'm seeing revenue of 450.6 million, beating expectations of 439 million. EPS.
Oh, now Ulta reversing course.
Yeah, we got to give it a second also because, as we know, forward guidance and a lot of other things can come in and move these stocks interestingly.
Well, Shai, those 270 MDV puts will probably do well.
I told you Mongo's gonna puke. Like, I was very vocal about
Looks
it.
like MongoDB both beat on top
Take
and
a bit
bottom
of
line
sweetness
there.
right now.
Yeah.
Why did you put
Ulta, fat move lower, damn. What'd you say, Marvell?
300s puts into September, then switched to 270 for short dated. Thanks.
Fat
paper.
move lower, yeah. These are some ugly numbers. They're getting beat. Ulta, Dell, Ulta forward guidance sees looks like they raised their full year guidance to between 11.7 billion to 11.8 billion from 11.5 to 11.6 billion on fiscal year revenue. Also raising their full year EPS guidance as well. Ulta was moving lower, right? Interesting.
Yeah, so Ulta, I think, so Logical and I are going to be quite nice tomorrow. Probably full profit out of the gate based on what I can tell.
I just needed above 375.
Exactly my point, right? So
yeah,
like
if it's flat, and especially if you get that nice PCE number, dude, we're fucking chilling, man.
Yeah, so we're totally chilling. Ulta's looking unched.
And guys, I just wanted to say, like, this is why sometimes it's really good to understand different option strategies, like selling puts versus buying
There's
calls
that.
versus spreads,
There's that move for
all
Dell.
that kind of stuff. And so, just depending on how you play it, right?
Yeah.
Everything down.
Like, I didn't even need this stock to move up $1. I just needed to not drop 20.
Yeah.
And now we wait
even
for.
If it dropped 20, we would still probably be just fine.
And mine goes out 2 weeks, so realistically, that is not going to matter, for me. I could even get out of this tomorrow, probably a worst case break even.
If we did drop 20, but if we didn't drop any, we're like near max profit.
Yes, sir. I might still have to wait it out towards expiration because I got the same expiration on both, but yeah.
Well, we got about 5 minutes till these Costco numbers come out too. Apparently, Ulta bounced back. Yeah, these are some weird moves we're getting.
So, side note, right? Like, this is all after hours, super thin trading. You never know.
Yeah, that's fair. We've had thin days. I can imagine the after hours being even thinner. Some Ozempic hitting the markets.
I was basically. I always try to take advantage of trades. If they go against me, let's say I start buying.
Yeah, look at this forward guidance for MongoDB.
I started buying
46 to 49. Wall Street 1 to 58.
Obviously, the stock's down to 380, whatever it was. But when it got to 377, I actually ended up selling those 375 put spreads. So yeah, I always like to take advantage of whenever something goes against me, and I feel pretty confident in it. It is what it is. Try to find a way to
Sentinel
turn
earnings.
into an
I don't think anyone
advantageous
cares about
situation. And kind of
weird movers, Crage.
Some of the quote unquote unrealized losses that I've seen just from buying a
Ulta not giving it back.
Down.
Not fighting back. All right, I'm also seeing Sentinel 1 earnings coming out. I'll dig into those in a minute. The guidance for MongoDB was pretty weak, though. Next quarter, they expect EPS between 46 to 49 cents. Wall Street wanted 58 cents. And then revenue between 460 to 464 million. Wall Street wanted 470 million for MongoDB.
Oh my God. Mongo is down $100.
What percentage?
That's ginormous. 25 almost. 24.
Yeah, that's pretty ugly.
It was also the full year guide was bad.
It's like UI bad.
Dude, that's the crazy thing is it was $500.
And to think that this one was the most underpriced of the group. Is that insane? That's insane.
Yeah, what I was talking about, those cloud providers are coming for their business. They're getting closer.
Yeah. It's fair.
All right, and then the ultimate, we're waiting for the hot dog combo to come out. Costco earnings in 4.
Unched.
You think?
Costco's going to Ulta 2.0. Yeah.
I exited my Costco positions. I didn't feel like playing this earnings.
It might be like a whipsaw. They could already be up for all. I am surprised with the Zscaler move. That's not too shabby. Actually.
Shah, you have any thoughts about what you've seen so far?
I mean, I nailed MongoDB. This doesn't even belong over 200, if that forecast is even accurate.
Really?
And no, not even close. I mean, even with the 25%, before this print, they're supposed to have a 15% year-over-year growth. Like, if they're this guided low teens, and their margins are free cash flow margins are high single digits, and they're trading at 190 times free cash flow of this year. Like, geez, this has some room to run. Unfortunately, I'm curious on my Snowflake's going down. I mean, I guess it's not a good place for software. Zscaler,
What is
super
Snowflake
happy
doing? I saw it hit 140 today.
It's down 2%. Oh wow, Zscaler's really running now. It's up
Yeah, that's what I'm
177.
saying. They're opposite. Not Zscaler's not running as much as Mongo's dumping, but it's not bad at all. They're just barely over the market maker implied move, but yeah, it's not too bad.
You guys want to hear something funny? For these Costco earnings, I have my tweet ready saying, breaking news, Costco just raised the price of its annual membership to $65. So if that happens, know my tweets, I'm about to have a banger here. And if it doesn't happen, then I made a graphics guy do some work for nothing, and I feel bad.
News? Sodas are not included with hot dogs anymore?
Nah, they're not touching that combo. They're raising the price. I was looking. I think it will bring them in an extra like $150 million straight to the bottom line.
That I don't even want the soda when I buy the hot dog?
Just get some water.
Dude.
I have not had a Costco hot dog before, guys.
Insane reaction. Across the board, Dell down 15.
Pretty ugly.
Go down 25.
Dude, Dell I'm okay with the Dell move, right? Like it.
Yeah, I mean it's up like 40% since the prior report.
Yeah.
This is the thing is people aren't looking left. Like you look left and you're like, okay, Dell.
It's not even 40% since the prior report. Look,
all right, guys.
Was at 145 literally last week. This month,
Yeah.
like 10 days ago, guys.
Costco earnings incoming. Sorry.
Yeah, but even generally speaking, like you look at, a 3-month basis prior to the report and ask yourself, like, what sort of beat is needed to justify that move? And I feel like this earnings season has been full of stories like this where it's a good company, good stock, good performance, top and bottom line beat. But, stock's up 40% since a prior ER, and just beating isn't good enough in that case.
Yeah.
All right. Got the Costco earnings are out. Net sales for the quarter was $57.9 billion, missing expectations. I want to see if they announced anything else in here. Honestly, disappointed. I'm not seeing anything. Fuck. Oh, I got that tweet ready for nothing. $57.4 billion on sales, though. It looks like it's missing expectations of $58 billion is what I had. Anyone else? Are you seeing EPS yet? I could dig in. Looks like I'm seeing 378 on EPS, which would be a beat on expectations of 371. Revenue would be a miss. I want to confirm this though before I go in and full and report it. Sorry about that, chat. I don't know if you guys heard that. I had someone come in.
We talked about it, right? so Dylan had an article out today. He was pointing out that of the big players, Dell has the smallest market share in high performance compute, and they have a long way to go. There's a lot that they can gain from the Lenovo and from Hewlett Packard, and they did not have a good option out in time when SMCI just took the market and ran with it and went up 1,000% or whatever the heck it was. So this is Dell's time. They have all of the advantages to capture a very large share in that market, and they're going to do it. And I think they have significant resources that are aligned for them to execute on that. So I'm not surprised at all. I think you're going to see faster and faster growth there. I still have to read the full report and see. Again, as it's been said here, this is more about how much it's run, not so much about the report itself.
Yeah, no, I was mainly referring to it in reference to what we talked about earlier with HPE. And, the vast majority of HPE's revenue comes from servers and networking. With the Intelligent Edge program, I don't know what percentage it is of their revenue, but yeah, so I'll be curious what that report looks like next week. That stock has not run a lot.
Costco mostly unchanged though. Paper not really moving here. I mean, it's down about 2% actually, back under 800. But I could see this being back into that.
Yeah, well, 790 here. That's
It's a little bit of a move. We're down 2%. We didn't get any of the stuff that I was kind of like hoping for a little bit. Whether it was stock split or whether it was announcing the increase the price of their membership, which I'm a little surprised.
Costco does this, right? Like it here's on earnings, it'll move like this, and then by the open, it'll be basically back to 8.
But yeah, Costco EPS was $3.78, beating expectations of $3.71. Revenue was $57.4 billion, missing expectations of $58 billion. And honestly, outside of that, there wasn't a crazy amount of other segments or stuff going on. Kevin, do we have you here? No worries.
While we're waiting for Kevin, I'm just looking at this. So there is nothing in Dell's numbers to show that there's any pickup in
Dell's getting hit hard.
Refresh cycle.
MongoDB.
It's still dead. Flat storage. So really, everything on the beat comes from high performance compute and nothing else. So storage flat, client solutions group flat. So basically they're selling a lot of servers. That's it.
Yeah, that was my take on it too, just looking at the superficial numbers. I mean, this is what I think, this is going to be one issue. It's not just with AI, it's with every theme. Is people
exactly, Paul.
Misconstrue
it's all from Jensen.
Reactions with some sort of broader narrative about a given theme or a given, part of the economy even. And that's problematic for a number of reasons, but it's also just silly. Like, what people need to do is look at these reports and ask themselves if they can separate what constitutes a beat versus what constitutes a positive earnings reaction versus what constitutes a trend being intact from a fundamental standpoint. And all three of those things are completely different. Dell beat top and bottom line. Yeah, estimates were raised, but the stock went up a lot since the prior quarter, and that beat wasn't enough to sustain the move. That's really the story there. You're talking about MongoDB, a stock that's been overpriced for a while, that Shai's talked about for a long time, is being overpriced, just being another one of the members of this earnings cycle that gets crushed.
A little anticlimactic on this Costco
one. What a lot of people will do is they'll look at the move down in
Costco earnings call 5 p.m. Eastern.
CRM, or the move down in some of these stocks tomorrow in response to these things, and they'll go,
let me post this in the chat.
Well, the AI theme is dead. It must be dead because these stocks that were involved in the AI theme are down 15 or 20% on an earnings report. That's just not the way things work. You have to look at the nuance in the report and ask yourself, where's the majority of growth in their revenue coming from? Where are they spending most of their money on? Are those trends expected to stay in place if they're providing forward guidance? I know not everyone does. Those are the questions you should be asking yourself if you want to continue to find opportunity in this space. Don't just chase the super overpriced players headed into earnings or the stocks that are up 40-45% headed into their next report.
I'm curious to hear that too, Paul.
If you make a habit of doing that out of the excuse being, well, this stock has shown relative strength, you're just going to get crushed. And I feel like a lot of people have gotten crushed in this earnings season by misinterpreting those things.
Stock Talk, I just want to add on to that. I have to leave in a few minutes, but I was just going to say, I really feel like we're finally getting back to a point where one market's taking a breather, and a lot of these stocks that have run to extreme overvaluations are, beginning to get punished. this is definitely not the end of a bull market. It's actually a healthy one, in my opinion, right? Like, this is now resetting valuations, giving people who have been sidelined an opportunity to buy. And yeah, so it's just a good time. If you chase, clearly, this is what happens. But I think that overall, it just allows for like more accumulation for people. And then while these companies, it takes a couple months, couple years, couple quarters for them to grow into their valuation. So in my opinion, this is really constructive for a bull market.
Yeah, the big thing for me on Dell, and I was on a space earlier this week where we were talking about it, and I was actually, and I was looking up the numbers on that as people were kind of getting excited. And I've definitely seen more options dynamics more favorably. I bet actually to a surprising degree. But the big thing for me when I kind of just like dug into the numbers earlier the week, it was just that like they've been between 20 and 25 billion in quarterly revenue, and last year like at this time was the 25 billion. So you look at this and you look at a booming industry, and yeah, the server numbers are good, but when you look overall, it's just when so many companies in that space are growing at like very impressive rates, especially Nvidia, obviously, but there's plenty of others. Like, yeah, it's a nice story that Dell's coming back, but it's just like I don't see the whole thing without them being able to kind of capitalize on this whole trend more. They just seem like someone that as other people
So this is
are
actually
overvalued.
wrong.
But for me, not being able to see that kind of like top line revenue, regardless of like breaking it out into different aspects of it, is super important for me.
I mean, look, the problem is that the server business is dramatically different from a feature and characteristic perspective than the GPU business. I mean, the GPU business, NVIDIA has built an enormous moat, and that won't last forever. Eventually, there'll be competitors that come in, high volume players that come in, or people that are close to being at the performance per dollar level that NVIDIA is. So that market will be dynamic. But for now, they've developed quite a sustainable, innovative moat to the point where most of their competitors can't come close to matching performance per chip, and that dynamic is very different from the server business, which the entire Dell move over the past year, I'm not saying it hasn't been deserved, has been in light of the growth in the server business and the idea that if people keep buying compute, people will keep buying servers. It's just a necessary part of the ecosystem. The problem is that servers are dramatically more of a commodity style business than compute is, because there is much less differentiation between the products. There's much less innovation.
Yeah, fat move there.
In these
The gap
server
of earnings too?
products. And frankly, there's just not really a way to establish a defensible moat. It's more about brand and brand association when it comes to server business and prior relationships.
EPS beating expectations, revenue beating expectations, decent numbers.
It's partially why Dell got so much of this narrative blessing in the last 6 months was because of Jensen's kind of passive, or you could even say direct endorsement of the company as an important role player in the server business. So it's just a different type of business, and the idea that Dell can defend its market share in servers the way that NVIDIA can defend its market share in GPUs is nonsensical. So look, I think
I agree with
Dell's a great company. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I was more commenting on is just like the overall AI trend. Obviously, servers are a part of that, and NVIDIA. I mean, it's more of a comment on the fact that, I mean, if you look at SMCI, for example, granted they're a smaller company, but that's a much more direct competitor in the server space.
I'm excited to see that. They're gonna get asked about it, Paul.
They're about a sixth of the size, but they are kind of, as I said, capitalizing on that trend, whereas Dell is kind of using it to tread water as a company.
If you guys are in the Costco earnings live stream thing, say hi.
So yeah, I mean, and I think the larger point that I'm making is in this environment where you can get
I wonder if they have slides or anything.
I'm not saying comparable businesses, but they are both stocks. And if you can get that kind of growth at the profitability levels that NVIDIA does, and obviously they're the example, but SMCI is something that's a lot closer that I've played a lot. I just have not been impressed enough with what Dell has been doing with an overall kind of trend of spending a lot more on compute.
Yeah, to me, it's still all about price relative to expectations for most of these stocks. Like, there's nothing in anything that in this earnings season that made me go, "Oh, this AI thing is bullshit." Like, at no point this earnings season did I see any kind of anecdotal evidence to think that. So, look, I think this is very much still a real theme. I just think the fundamental impact is more concentrated than people expected, for first and foremost, and B, that a lot of these stocks have run on thin air. I talk about this all the time, but in between two earnings reports, generally stocks move on narratives. They occasionally will have catalysts too, but the move in between two quarters for most of these tech stocks has just been on sentiment. And a lot of them are not going to have the reports to justify that. And they should be down 15, 20%. So I don't have a problem with it. As a person that mostly is involved, obviously, with tech stocks. It's most of what I talk about. For me, this isn't some kind of condemnation of the AI theme, nor is it like a condemnation of tech in general. There have been places that have been great to be, regardless of these earnings reactions. So I think if you stay with stocks that you think are fairly priced, that continue to have upside, that haven't run 40-50% since a prior report, I think you'll be fine. But if you keep chasing these stocks that are gapped up on thin air, then I think some people will rightfully get checked by that during earnings season.
I mean, I'm as big of an AI bull as anyone, so I agree with you. I think we're both saying the same thing at this point, that you do have to be.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah. No, I think
I didn't want you to misinterpret that.
Oh yeah, I thought no. I mean, the first time you were, but I see I see how we zeroed in a little bit here. But yeah, no, I definitely think that we're going to see more of exactly what you're talking about, where some of these narratives, and I think what I was kind of saying in terms of everybody kind of buying these stocks thinking they're a value because
Hey, I try to warn you guys.
carry everything. I think that's where we kind of agree that a lot of those are going to see corrections.
Rough earnings time.
I'd say beyond this quarter.
I think we have to separate the trend itself from valuation and multiples. That's a different story, right? I'm not talking about that part of it. I think there's a problem there, and there's a significant problem in some companies and a very serious problem in others, and some level of overvaluation in everything. But at 44% growth in high performance compute, there is nothing to second guess anything in AI. This is massive shipment, right? And remember, these are the companies that the SMCIs, the HPEs of the world ship to, are the second tier of AI buyers, right? The hyperscalers have their own manufacturing tie-ups, and they buy the GPUs, send it out to the contract manufacturers, and get it made for them with their custom designs. So 44% growth from the second rung of providers. Let's even say outside of the top four cloud providers, some of those are customers too. This is massive growth. We're still, and there's nothing to suggest from the capex guidance that most of these have given. There's nothing to suggest it's slowing down imminently. But again, right, 100% with you on the valuation side of it. That's a whole different story. Whether Dell's valuation was justified, yeah, it's run up so much, and it did not have an exemplary enough of a number to justify keeping those multiples. That's all. Nothing more.
If people want to see outperformance this earnings season, look at what the mid caps in the space have done. Look at the earnings reactions to the mid caps in the AI and tech space. They've been phenomenal, at least for the most part. The ones that I've looked at. I mean, I know that's anecdotal for me to say, but I mean, I'll give you one example from today. Look at CRDO today. Shock up 27%. $4 billion data infrastructure company. Okay. Earnings weren't even like, oh my God. They had a 2-cent EPS beat. They got an upgrade from Baird this morning. Stock took off 27%. That's what's happening in the mid cap world. And so a lot of people are focused on these names that, and I mean, I rightfully so. I mean, I like talking about the popular names too. I don't think it's bad to talk about anything really, but the alpha has been in the mid caps because they haven't run 40-50% since their prior reports. So if you're a trader and you're using this earnings season as a vehicle to produce high beta moves that go in your favor,
Where can you
that's where you
find
need to be looking,
the
in my
what's up,
opinion.
Ollie? Let me link you the Dell earnings
and even
call.
if you want to look outside of the AI space, look at
Nick.
stock like Magnite, which me and Logical have talked about a bunch.
Zallo, if you go to earningshub.com, click on Dell,
over the past month,
and then this live earnings call.
Right. That's
Mr. Williams, you may begin.
Here.
And again, an overlooked name. Everyone wants to look at the blue chip names that have run 30% on the back of the market.
That's the link for the Dell earnings call.
If you marry yourself to those names, you will inevitably have an earnings surprise like this. Very early in the cycle, yeah, you can ride these. Like last year, you could have ridden NVIDIA, had a fantastic time. I'm sure a lot of people did. You apparently still can. It's still doing well this year. But you look at the other stocks in that group, did a couple good reports, maybe 2 consecutive 15-20% gap ups, and then they get brutalized.
Dude, X Pro sucks to use.
In anticipation of better and better and better earnings. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know everyone doesn't trade small caps, but for me, there's been an enormous amount of alpha this earnings season in small caps, and I've been grateful to be more focused there than I have on large caps. The vast majority of my trades this quarter have come from small and mid caps, and despite the fact that IWM has been a headache, performed well today and outperformed the indexes today. But despite the fact that it's been a headache,
IWM's been amazing, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about like getting above this 210 spot that it's struggled with. But
Logical's got wheel trades. Gap, by the way, up 20%, and Costco, Evan, back to break even, back to
there
unchanged.
you go. By the way, the Dell earnings call is going on right now. So I pinned up a link.
Wait for Michael to say we're spinning off. We're breaking Dell up into 20 different companies, and it's gonna rock it.
Now, for Dell though, on this conference call, what will be interesting is that they did announce some new AI PCs, and I think the announcement was just on the 20th, right? So last week Monday. If they have any insights to that, I don't know if they probably are taking orders right now, but I would love to hear like the first 10 days of what they are seeing as far as orders and things of that nature. I mean, the enterprise refresh cycle post-COVID, I think is going to be a huge deal for a lot of these PC players, and I don't know if it just kind of came back, but we talk about the server side and the hyperscalers and AI, and obviously they're doing their thing right now, but I think the next wave of this is going to be on the PC side. And once you're able to centralize, and I think we had this conversation, I might have had this conversation with George maybe last week or maybe not, but I think that's going to maybe, yeah, I think that would be a tailwind for them. If they kind of bring that up, that they are seeing or expecting that refresh cycle happen second half of 2025, and with this new release and the new announcements, they are seeing some interest there. I'm not saying that the stock definitely ran up it ran up, yeah, right, and you're seeing a little bit of a pullback, but I'm just thinking long-term vision. I think the PC side is going to be the next wave of this whole thing. That's just my
staying on the small mid-cap theme.
Continue to improve as the year progresses.
Codec semi up 21%. It had a mix.
Look at
inline revenue beat on EPS, but guides up.
Look at American Superconductor, AMSC, right? Was up 25% this morning, 27% this morning. Closed up 10, but this is what I'm saying. These. If you find the hot theme and you find the stocks in the hot theme that have fundamental promise, that look good technically, that fit in the trend, that you've read good things about, but they haven't moved much, those are the opportunities you want to go after as an individual stock trader. And I know I'm not talking to everyone in the audience. And also, I apologize for my voice. You guys know I have bronchitis, or at least I mentioned it yesterday. But
Costco gives us no info.
As an individual stock trader, that's what I do. I trade individual stocks. So for those of you that trade futures or indexes or whatever, I'm not talking to you. But for the individual equity traders. That's how you find your opportunities in earnings season, is especially on a market, on the back of a market where the Qs have run 70% from the lows, or not at this point, more than that, 75, 80% from the lows in November. On the back of that kind of market, you're going to have stocks that have gone up just because the NASDAQ has gone up. And those stocks are going to have a hard time withstanding even inline reports, as we've seen, which have gotten destroyed. The stocks that have not run up for no reason are the SMID caps. There are so many SMID caps in semiconductors, in digital ads, in data centers, in cloud infrastructure. There's so many SMID caps in that space that have not run at all in the past 2 quarters. Some of them are even down. And to me, that's where the opportunity is. Your American Semiconductors, your microchip, your CRDO, which blew up today. I was pissed off because I was in that stock 2 weeks ago and sold it too early. But I mean, look, you're not going to catch every move. But if you want to find big equity movers in earnings season, don't look at your typical blue chip favorites. You should look beyond that group. And a great way to find those names, at least for me, is to read sell side research. Like I would say, every single one of my big winners this year has been cued into me by reading sell side research and being like, oh shit, that could be a huge winner this quarter. And then if I like the idea, I follow it. But yeah, I mean, at the risk of being repetitive, look at SMID caps.
Yeah, and you're also kind of getting that flow too, right? Like no one's ever trading it, and then they have good news, and then boom, right? Like everybody wants to be on that train. So I get that. Paper.
Let's refresh this. How many people are still in here after?
Small caps, like look at small caps, they're doing fantastic. Was that a joke?
I was joking with them because I run
The hardware.
Got you.
and it's just been like printing money all year.
Got you. Okay, I was like, what the hell is he talking about? All right, cool.
By the way, one of the Trump trials, I think it's the hush money. I don't know. I don't really follow it that much, but apparently they reached a verdict, and they're going to read that out in a second. Dope. DJT on watch. We'll see how that one ends up going. Kevin, you feel like there's something... Oh, wait, that might have been someone else. I heard a deep breath, and it sounds like someone wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, no. I don't want to get to the politics. I just think this is going to be hilarious in like 2 seconds. The true social tweets and stuff. So
Michael must be doing something. That stock's turning around pretty
Dell?
quickly here.
I'm telling you, man, just wait for the commentary. I'm not bullish on this name by any stretch, but I feel like they're going to be able to spend some of this. I feel like they're going to spend some of this.
Run and deploy AI closer to where the majority of their data exists, on-prem, increasingly at the edge, on-device, and across clouds to help them accelerate AI adoption. We are partnering with customers applying
What's happening? Like your customers can't have that much inventory for the last year and a half that they're not backfilling inventory. It just seems crazy to me. And maybe this is a secular shift. I don't know, but I just find that a lot of these names that we've been kind of like waiting on.
And now over to Yvonne for the financials.
With AI continuing to drive new growth.
Yeah, holy running flat. Something's happened on Ulta call must be because that's climbing higher also.
Gross margin was $4.9 billion and 22.2% of revenue, down 250 basis points given a more competitive pricing environment and a higher AI-optimized server mix. Operating expense was $3.5 billion, or 15.6% of revenue, down 3%, and we will continue to be prudent in our cost management. Operating income was 6.6% of revenue and $1.5 billion, down 8%, driven by the decrease in our gross margins, partially offset by OPEX scaling. Q1 net income was $923 million, down 4%, primarily driven by lower operating income. Diluted EPS was $1.27, down 3%.
Chat, we lost literally half of you guys in there in a second, so I'm going to turn that off. Let's keep listening. But yeah, we got about 19 minutes left on this Spaces. That Costco earnings call starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. I think they're going to update us on the gold, maybe, or an analyst question we'll ask about it. So you guys will get plenty of tweets coming out there, I'm sure. I'm ready. But they actually posted a little presentation here with more info. So let me dig into this. But Brett, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. How are you feeling about some of these earnings we got out? Anything interesting for you that we've seen?
Yeah, honestly, these aren't like the top names, on my list every earnings season to keep an eye on. But this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with how when we first started getting the reactions out of growth stocks, and we're seeing it today with Mongo, but just how unless you report essentially a great quarter, you're not being rewarded for it, and if you report anything that's subpar, you're getting like truly punished for it. And I remember kind of when we were having this discussion, it was the day Trade Desk reported and Robinhood reported, and both of them reported good numbers, had good guides, and the Trade Desk, the stock eventually moved higher, and Robinhood has moved higher nicely since then. But the initial reaction was to flush all the gains and move lower. So it's just kind of continuing the trend that we've seen over the last couple weeks, the last month, really, where unless the quarter is truly outstanding, companies aren't being rewarded. And Stock Talks, kind of reiterated a similar point we made at that point too, which was just that a lot of these stocks have moved a tremendous amount in a short period of time, and it's not unnatural for them at this point to take some off if it's not a tremendous quarter. So my focus is kind of shifting to the second half of the year, and if we start to get the rhetoric for lower interest rates to gain some momentum, I think that would be a positive for small caps. It's going to be a positive for the growth companies, especially the ones, the companies that are free cash flow positive, can fund their operations on with their existing business model. Interest rates don't affect them as much, but it's especially for these companies that are free cash flow negative or have to borrow to fund their businesses at this time. Lower rates and the prospect of lower rates for them can be a huge benefit and a big tailwind. So that's sort of my second half outlook. My bigger picture outlook is small caps and growth stocks, and if we get that narrative for lower rates to kind of help give them a boost.
Appreciate those thoughts there. When we're saying SMID cap, what's the market cap for us between small and middle and mid cap? I know some different areas have like 2 billion and below, or like 2 to 5 billion being small cap, 10 billion being kind of large cap above.
I guess people have different definitions, but for me, when I talk about mid caps, I'm looking at under 10 billion. Okay. I consider mid caps between 2 to 10.
Yeah,
that's what I consider.
That's that's what I meant to say when I was saying what I've seen. That is it.
I've heard different people say different things. I'm just talking about for me personally. For me, I would say like the vast majority of my gains come from mid caps, which is like 2 to 10 billion. $3-4 billion stocks that I think can go up 20-30%. That's where like my big winners come from. I'm not always right, but I like operating in that category.
Stay live for like another 5 minutes or so.
The reason I believe there's more alpha there is because I brought this up before, but there's just not as much coverage.
Some moves, Gap. You're right.
When I read
nice move continuing
research,
there. Ulta.
One of the first things,
dude.
One of the first
Craig,
things
did you take Ulta? Look at this.
I like is who else is covering this? That's like literally on the top of my checklist when I'm doing Catalyst research. So I'll read a report. I like the report. The first thing I'll do is I'll go and look at who else is covering the stock.
DB.
And the beautiful thing about mid caps is very often there is no one else covering the stock, or there's maybe one or two other analysts. And so that concentrates the value of that analyst's opinion. So, if I'm covering a stock that 50 other analysts are covering, and I downgrade it or I lower my price target by $5, no one gives a fuck because there's 50 other analysts covering the stock. The same thing goes for let's say a stock reports earnings, it gaps up 15%. Then the next morning, and we've all seen this, the next morning everyone raises their price target. Does that move the stock? Not really. The stock already moved. And that impact is like the dilution of opinion. And with mid caps, you have not only far less people covering it, but you have less eyes, less volume. They move less on a quarter-to-quarter basis. In other words, you're much more likely to find a mid cap stock that is flat quarter over quarter on a price action basis, but the fundamentals may have improved. That is very unlikely on a large cap, because on a 50, 100, 250
that is going to be all from the spaces today. Let me get this connected. Costco live earnings just happened. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a little bit more of an all over the place one, I won't lie to you. But we'll see. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. A little bit of a nothing burger with these Costco numbers coming out. They did come in slightly above expectations. Costco down about 1% in after hours, but operating 878 locations. No changes to the price of its annual membership. No change to the price of its hot dog combo. No change to a lot of stuff going on here. So interesting stuff going on. Costco was down a little bit. It's come back. Now it's down just about 1% in after hours. Other earnings like Dell and MongoDB getting hit hard, but Ulta recovering. I'm glad to see. I know some of you guys were taking that long. But I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for coming in. If you're new here, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. I'm doing a couple more of these type of live streams every once in a while as I'm choking. But yeah, definitely around like earnings and different stuff like that. So yeah, if you enjoy live stock market content, that's free. I'm doing these spaces, trying to bring different conversations. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that bell button. Get notified whenever I post something. And yeah, I don't think I'll be live tomorrow morning. It's been a slow week. We'll see. Let's check the earnings calendar going forward. Lululemon and Smart Sheets next week. Maybe we'll go live for that. Could be interesting. CrowdStrike could be a fun one too. So a couple earnings incoming, and we have a little bit of busy on the macro data, but I appreciate you, Nick. You've been great. I am going to be listening to this Costco earnings, so come join me in here, guys. Come say hi in the chat. I'll be hanging out here listening to Costco earnings live, hopefully talking to some of you guys. And yeah, I'll catch you all later. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting me and letting me do what I do. We got to 19 watch hours on this one. Not bad. Nothing crazy. Just a casual Thursday. But yeah, I'll catch you all later. Have a good one, guys.